That's where it all started. I was born right here in this lot in 1928. There used to be a well right here in the center, stood up born. This was called the old Hunt Place. And shortly after we moved from here, the house burned down and was never rebuilt. So I guess the well had either rusted away or someone taken it out. There used to be a well that stood up about 4 feet right in the center of this lot. And this is called Gatewood, West Virginia. And I don't know how long we lived here, but here's where I was born. And I was also born in the house, not in a hospital. And shortly after that, we moved from here to Brooklyn. And we'll talk about that later, how long we lived there and what we did while we were there. But right here's where I was born, and it's where it all started.
And what day was that?
Well, this had to be October 6, 1928. You want to cut it off?
No, keep going.
Well, that's about all I got to say about this. Nothing else to say yet.
Okay, I'm gonna pan the area.
All right.
Just the terrain. You also said you had a friend that lived here you went to service with?
Oh, that's going to come later, though.
Okay. We lived across the street, right?
Oh, yeah, I lived across the street. His parents lived there until they died. They're all deceased now. Those families, the Jenningses.
Okay.
Well, that's about it right here.
Okay.
So we did get killers. If we paved this, this used to be a one-way. This used to be the junkyard here. Junkyard.
This hill here?
Yeah. I walked down through here a many night when I could not see. I drove a car a many night when you could not see 1 foot in front of you for the fog. You're talking about fog. It's down in these days at night.
Wow, what a hill.
Filming it?
Yep.
Picking up voice too?
Yep.
We used to ride down this thing in the wintertime on sleds. We used to hook on the cars and ride up this mountain on sleds. And right down here with this telephone pole, we went off the road, 4 of us on a big bobsled and almost got killed. We all landed in a creek over there. Luckily we didn't get killed.
It's a heck of a hill.
We did some dangerous things. I don't like to tell things I did, ahead of time. Here, but when we moved from Gatewood, where I was born, to right here.
Hold on a second. Go ahead.
We,
The camera. I think she's going. Go ahead.
well, I don't know what you...
Go ahead.
From Brooklyn, from Gatewood, where I was born, in 29 to right here. You see houses all over here. I remember people lived over there were named Smiths. My Uncle Okie lived next door to us here. And down in there was all open and clear, just like a ball field. It was all cleared out down there. There was houses all in here. And we lived here till about I think about 1932, and that's when we moved to Gatewood. But here's where my brother burnt me with a poker one time. Still got the scar to prove it. Right here. And cut it off.
Whereabouts was it?
Where he got burnt?
Right there?
I don't remember too much here because I left here real young. Cut her off. Okay, we moved right here in this house. You want to put the camera over, Alan?
Well, when did you move here?
We moved over here, I was 4 years old when we moved to this house right here. And it was 2 families moved in it. We lived in the front and another family lived in the back. And well, I was living there when my dad got hurt in the coal mines in 1932. I'll never forget that because when my dad, we pulled him up here in the ambulance right here, and I came out and I crawled up in the ambulance with him, and I was only 4 years old, and then they took him away to the hospital with my mom, and he was gone for about 4 or 5 months in the hospital. He was 18 months getting over it. Then after he came home getting well from the injury in the coal mines, him and another guy, Frank Reed, lived in the house next door to us. They built a sawmill together. And the sawmill was right here. And they sawed a lot of timber and lumber for some of the coal camps around here. And I never will forget, we used to play in the sawdust. They built a thing that hauled the sawdust on the other side of the hill and dumped it off automatically. We used to play in that sawdust when we were kids. We had a lot of fun there. I remember one time as a guy wrecked a car, came around his turn here. Want to show the turn, Alan? Came around his turn here.
Hang on.
With a 28 Buick.
Like this?
And he came off the road and he hit a log right in here and knocked the log all the way into the sawmill and damaged the sawmill. So the guy that owned the car, we kept the car for the damage of the sawmill. And my dad fixed the car up, and then, I forget the man's name that lived in that house over there. He got the car and he drove it for several years after that. It was a 28 Buick. I remember a lot of things while we lived here, but it would take the rest of the day to tell about it. And we lived here till about 1935, and we moved on down the road, and we'll show you later on, where my dad built a house, and we moved down there and lived there a few years. And we'll go down there and take a look at that. And the house is still there, and got a lot of stories between this house and that house, but I don't have the time to tell all of them.
What was?
When my dad came home out of the hospital, he was a long time recuperating from his injury in the coal mine. And we used to lay in the yard there and pull the skin off his legs and back. He had a cast on for several months. And finally got so he could walk. That's when we started the sawmill business. He had more than one sawmill. He had a sawmill earlier than that, and in later years he had another one out in Kmore later on. But he knew quite a bit about that business, and I never will forget they nicknamed his sawmill the Thick and Thin Lumber Company. A lot of people laughed about that, but actually they were pretty good. They sawed a lot of lumber. A lot of houses were built in here from the lumber that my dad sawed off of this sawmill. They used to use big blades about 8 feet in diameter and to saw the lumber. And they sawed trees 3 or 4 feet in diameter. We used to truck them in here with trucks. We used to pull them in with horses. I mean, it was a pretty big operation. And we really enjoyed watching that. And we had some good times with that. A lot of memories.
So this is where the sawmill was, right in here, huh? Back in here?
Right in here. If it was possible to get in there, you could see it because there's nothing been built in there. If you could just eliminate all this brush, you could find evidence of it right now. I'm telling you, there's tons of sawdust in there. I said more or less set right in this general area, Alton, right in here. Don't get none of them close-ups.
No, I'm just getting the house as they go by.
Oh. There's the house. There's the house. Got to be. Jones Dairy Lane.
Okay.
There used to be a 3-room school here called Victory School. And this is where I started and where my brother and sister started school here too. And we went here till from 1932 to probably 39 when we moved to Lookout. And we lived down the road there. You want to film it? We lived in the house, you can see the top of it. We'll talk about it later. We lived down there, that's the house my dad built. While he was actually recuperating after he got hurt in the coal mine. And this school operated till about, I think in the early 60s. They finally tore it down and eliminated this school. But got a lot of memories at this school. We used to sleigh ride here, and we used to play sling tail over the hill, and we had a lot of fun. There used to be a wheat field there. We used to play in the wheat field. And just naturally, when I went to school here, I was the teacher's pet. So I used to go to the store every day with a teacher and get her a sandwich and an apple and something, and she gave me a nickel or something for that. And so I was considered a teacher's pet because I was the one who went to the store every day. Her name was Miss Clowers. She was a really nice lady. She had the most beautiful handwriting I've ever seen in my life, other than my sister. When we bought our house, bought about an acre of land from this gentleman over here named Mr. Jones, and I never will forget, we paid $75 for 2 acres of land. And later on, we sold the whole thing for $400. I'll tell you about that later.
What was your lesson that you probably remember the most out of school here?
Out of here? Oh, gosh. I don't know. I learned a lot of lessons here. I can't remember at all. But, spent a lot of time here playing. Never forget my cousin. I had a cousin, I won't mention his name, got caught stealing something out of this gentleman's barn one time. He got shot right there through the leg. I remember that. He got shot going over the fence. No, he's gone now, so we don't have to worry about him. I never forget one time right down there in the sandbar, I was playing with a bunch of kids right down in the lower level, and a friend of my dad's came by named Ray Brooks. I was about 5 years old, and I says, "Ray, you should be home with your old lady," or something like that, you know, smart guy. So he turned me over his knee and he spanked me. And he says, "Now you go home and tell Luther." I told Luther when I was about 21 years old. Because if I'd have told Luther those days, he would have gave me another one. So he didn't hear about that for a long time. You know, just a little kid talking too much, and the guy spanked me for it. I remember that. We built this house, and I'll never forget, he built it in somewhere in 1935, and he was still on his crutches. And we got about, I think about 2 acres of land here. We bought it from Mr. Jones up the road a while, and I think we paid about $75 for the land. It took my dad about, it was about maybe a year and a half building this house. Then we moved from Gatewood. Well, this is still Gatewood here, but we moved from up the road about half a mile down here. And we lived here until 1939 when we moved to Lookout. But I got lots of memories in this house. We used to play cowboy all over these hills. Joe Brown and some other kids that lived in this area, we used to play cowboy on these hills. And we dug a well. My dad put a well behind the house where you cannot see it. And it's about 3 or 4 feet in diameter. It's about 20-some feet deep. And he drilled through solid slate and rock. It's probably the best well in this country, and it's probably still being used. Really good water. And we dug, it took about a month to dig that well. I ought to know I was down in there shoveling the dirt. And I was just about, I must have been 7, 8 years old then. And this right here used to be all a wheat field. This all used to be wheat. And I've seen my dad working here all day long, cutting wheat for Mr. Gosh, I can't think of his name. Anyway, he used to cut wheat here all day long for maybe $1, $1.25. Or the guy would give him a sack of flour or something like that during the Depression. There was no work, and you know he had to work like that to get money. And my dad always messed around cars and things just like I did. I remember this area right in here, there were times when we had maybe 3 or 4 or 5 cars in here, just old junks. And we used to switch. If he had a 2-door car and he wanted a 4-door car, he just switched the bodies. Take one body off one car and put it on another car. And it's many times he had this whole area just looked like a junkyard because he liked to mess around cars and junk and things just like I do. And, we used to be a house sit right there. It's gone now. And, let's see what else here. On now?
Yeah.
All right, well, we didn't walk there. The school was right up there. You can't see it from up there. There was a school. I had many a fight coming down this road with kids, throwing rocks at each other. I mean, we had some battles here. And, this house was nothing like this. My dad built a wire fence here. It had a real nice iron gate and a fence. We had a sidewalk up to the front of the house. Then we had a sidewalk around the back of the house, and it's quite a bit different than this. Now I'm sure that's not the original house. Probably the same foundation, but the house has been changed. But then it was only about a 3-room house, and we never did add to it because he didn't live here that long. But we had some sad times and a lot of happy times here. Back in those days, all your relatives, they visited you all the time because nobody worked or nothing. There was nothing to look up the road and see a carload of your relatives coming to visit you, and they'd stay with you all Saturday and Sunday, and they'd be gone. Everybody visited everybody in those days. Nobody had nothing, and they all shared it together. Not like it is today. But, a lot of memories. That's it.
This is the well?
Yeah. Now here's the well I was talking about. And it looks like right now there's nobody living here. It don't look like it's been lived in. But this is the well. They got looks like they have it covered over. But that was one of the best waters in this whole country. Really good water.
How old were you when you lived here?
I moved here when I was probably 6 or 7 when I came here. And we left here in 39. So
You're on.
Okay, Alan, this is the house we moved to when we moved from Gatewood. When we sold our house to Mr. Mills in Gatewood, we moved here. It had to be 1939. That truck pass makes too much noise. Hold a second. So I told you my dad sold that house in Gatewood for $400, but I found out this morning we went to the courthouse, he sold it for $200. We got the deed on it. And we lived here probably, I don't know, maybe a couple of years. But we moved on up the road a little farther and got a house where we could rent cheaper than this one. We paid $8 a month rent here. We moved up the road where we could get a house for $6 a month. Save $2 a month on rent. When we moved here, my dad sold a Maytag wash machine. And he had a little old 33 Plymouth truck, and we made a truck out of it. My brother and I used to help him load wash machines in and out of the truck, and we put them on the porch there. And then he'd sell them and we'd deliver them. Don't get too close. He'd deliver them to the customers. This house is almost identical as we lived there. I see the well is still there. And I got a real cut right behind the house there because my mother wants me to clean the yard and I didn't want to do it, so she smacked me a couple of times. So I went out there and throwing things around, and that's how I got my finger cut. And right here, right in this area right here used to be a big gas station and a beer joint right here. And it was also a big garage right here with a big ramp. My dad used to drive his car up in there and keep it overnight and store his wash machines in that garage. This was like a beer joint. up here and sell papers to drunks. And they'd pay me too much for paper because they didn't know what they were buying. And a lot of things happened here. There was a guy killed in a car wreck. Not a car wreck, but a guy was hit with a car across the street, and we've seen that. And on this road over here, this pavement over here across the street used to be an old hard road. And I used to go up there and roller skate all the time. And I see it's gone now, it's a dirt road now. But I used to roller skate over it all the time. And mainly the reason I skated over all the time is a couple pretty girls lived over there. And I thought, you know, they might see me over there skating. Anyway, my cousins lived down the road about a mile away. And they used to play all kinds of tricks on my mother. There used to be a tree in the front yard there. And one time they crawled up in that tree and hung a sign, chicken cross for sale. I mean, they was always playing tricks on her. And down in here, down in the woods, it's grown up quite a bit now. Every year, there used to be carnivals coming here and set up tents, and they used to have carnivals in here. It was real nice. They had some real good shows and had some real good acts. There's a lot of talented people that put on shows here, and they came here. They were like gypsies and things, but they put on a good show, and they were there maybe a week. Cost 10 cents to get in and see the show, and it's a real good show. I see a sign over here. It's got a lady's name on it. Come over here, Alan. Take a picture of it. I don't know if you can see it or not. Laura Gross Miller. That name sure rings a bell to me. She lived about a mile down the road, and she was my grade school teacher. And she did not like me at all. She made me stay in the 5th grade 2 years. She said I talked too much. But she loved my sister, but she told my mother she couldn't stand me because I talked too much. And I see she's been dedicated to this park area here. So she's dead now a long time ago. While we lived here, we never had coal. We couldn't afford any coal, so we had an old pony called the blind pony. And my brother and I, we used to go way down in the woods and cut down trees and drag them up through the woods. And we used to lay them in between trees down there with a fork in it and saw wood to heat with because we couldn't afford any coal. And we had that pony a long time. I'll never forget, Bert was riding a pony up through here one day. And the pony threw him off and almost broke his neck. Finally traded that pony off. I think my dad got a sewing machine for it or something. Dad, we used to have a cow. We used to be a shed down there. We had an old cow. And Bert was the only one that could milk that thing. I never learned how to milk very good, but he could really milk pretty good. You can't see it for those trees. The high school over there, that's where my brother and sister first went to high school as a freshman. Because I was still in grade school, so I never went to that school at all. So let's go on up the road to Allen. I'll show you the house we moved in to save $2 a month out of this house, okay? If it's still there, I'm sure it is. Here is where the old pumps used to be when there was a gas station here, so we know there was a gas station here at one time or another. I used to cut wood for this lady that ran this gas station. She was always drunk, so I'd cut her a big pile of wood and she'd give me 20 cents for cutting the wood. And I'd come up and I'd say, Margaret, you want to look at that wood pile, see if it's big enough? She'd come out there and she'd say, no, you got to cut some more. So I'd go out there and I'd cut wood another half hour, and I'd come up there and I'd say, Margaret, you want to check that wood pile again? I said, it's getting big. And she'd finally come there and say, well, that's big enough. And she'd give me my 20 cents. And I saved, just cutting wood for her, for 20 cents at a time, I saved a $5 day in dimes. And just cutting wood for her for 20 cents a day. And I cashed it in one time for a $5 bill, and I thought I was a millionaire. Then I promptly sit down and order me some bicycle parts for my bicycle. Chicago mail order house. A little ways. I never will forget we had to carry our stuff. And we had nobody to move us. We just put what we could on my dad's car and we carried some. We didn't have much to carry, but what we had. Nobody moved us. We just carried it. Right down here to our left is where this Laura Gross Miller lived. It's on that sign back there. She's a real old lady as a teacher then, and boy, she just never liked me. I used to cut her grass for her too. The house is still there. And then we moved right here. This house here on your right was Guy Douglas. He was a politician. I forget what his title was, but he had a pretty big job at the Federal. Anyway, before we moved to, when we left that house down the road about a half a mile, I see now the house has been torn down. But it was here about 15 years ago because we came by here and seen it. So in the meantime, the gentleman up here has tore it down and built his house above it here. And the old house that we rented from, the old gentleman's house is in those woods is completely closed in now. But it's still there. His name was Uncle Dick Cooper and Aunt Kate. They're real great old people. And I spent a lot of time over there talking to them. And they used to have cows and pigs and things up there, and I used to help them hold their corn, and feed the cows and everything. We used to get a rock wall here. They went right off the front porch, right down into the street, and we used to catch the bus down there all the time. And as usual, my dad had this whole area full of junk cars and old trucks and things, and he was always trading with other people for different things. And we lived here when the war broke out. And shortly after the war broke out, we moved from here to Canal. And we'll go down there and film that later. So, cut her off.
That's the old house you're saying?
Yes, the first four pictures are the top one is the old house, and then the other next three when it was being demolished.
You can point to them if you want.
Well, this is the original old house. There's a picture from Route 60.
Okay, push it back. I'm getting glare again.
Yes. Okay. Here is a picture of the old house being demolished.
Okay.
And here is another one.
Can you put the angle again and just get a little bit glare again?
And this picture is a picture from the rear of the old house.
Let me just get the glare out of it.
Let me see. Now, with that help, I can take this film off.
Okay. Got that. Now, your house now is behind the old one, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, yes. And, let me see.
Let me try again.
There is a place where you can see that. This one shows where we have bulldozed out. This is from behind, and there's the old house down here, and this is where our house is set.
No, okay.
And we had...
Can you angle it just a little more? There you go. Perfect.
Had a barn in there, and cows and chickens, and I used to help Uncle Dick milk the cows and take care of the chickens. He used to give me a dime or a nickel or something. And I used to spend a lot of time. His Aunt Kate used to make bread and give us milk and stuff. He was really, really nice people.
It's on.
Not on here. It used to be like a...
Go ahead.
Too much noise. It's like a rock wall here. And we used to have steps come right down in the street here. We used to catch a school bus right here.
What school did you go to?
Divide.
And what school did...
They went to Nettle, about a mile down the road on the left. We used to walk all that distance just to go swimming. I remember one time down here was swimming. My brother couldn't swim very good. My dad and my cousin from Chicago distance was trying to get him to go in swimming. Show him how to swim. So we're getting ready to go home. And it's too bad. It's too close. And so while they're out in the woods changing clothes, Bert takes a big jump off in the swimming pool, and there's nobody there, and he almost drowned. Like he never got him out of the water. We couldn't get him to go in while we were there. He just, strangest thing, he just up and jumped right in the water off a big rock. He couldn't swim a lick. And Ivan Fortner, my dad, and another guy named Fred Smith finally got him out of the water. That ended the swimming day. That day. We just walk all this. It's hot. I'll never forget it was barefoot, tired, sticking to the toes.
Yeah. Creek area, right?
Yeah.
You're on.
This
Hold on a second. Okay, she's going.
was Oxford. He was here when he was about 10, 11 years old. Come on a little closer, get a shot of this hoist going down the river. Your mother and I have been down this thing together before. Nice ride. It's not open today or we'd go down. Forget how many hundreds of feet that's down there, but it's an enjoyable trip. It's been here quite a while. It's been here for several years. Used to be open every day, but now it's only open a couple times a week. It's a beautiful sight, isn't it? That way.
Still be a good water to get the level.
They say they close it down most part of the year.
The gully.
The gully,
yeah.
the gully, the only time you can really depend on water is when they let the summer lake out. They let them go so they empty the lake every year.
Oh. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Good luck on your trip tomorrow.
I hope they do.
Yeah, I gotta get that backpack out of here.
Finish this film pretty soon, man. I'm running out of clothes. It's the third wardrobe for me. I might have to go shopping. Okay. See that house right there on the hill? That's where we moved to when we moved from Lookout over here, 1941, right after the war broke out. And there used to be a porch on the front, and you get up on the house real easy. We lived, that was called Colored Town. We was about the only white people in Colored Town. In those days, Colored Town was separated from White Town. But I lived there, we must have lived there a couple of years, and I never one time had any problem with any of the black boys. In fact, they were all my good friends. There's really a lot of nice people up there, even though they were black people. Well, we moved from up there down here. Down in this area right in here. The house is torn down now. There used to be two families lived there. In fact, my brother Art and Anna Mae, they lived in the back of the building at one time. Of course, this was later on. And this is where Lil Amos started going with my sister, and they used to date. And he used to come up there and date her all the time. And later on, they got married. And they got married in this church here. He and Sister, they got married here. And so did Bert and Anna Mae got married there. But that's actually a little bit later on. And cut it off. Okay, we moved from that house down to this house. It used to be a big what happened here, the company store burned down one time. And they built a temporary store here until the store was rebuilt. And then when they rebuilt the store, they made 2 apartments out of this house here. And this is one of the few houses that had a bathroom in it at that time. All those houses on the hill up in there, none of them had bathrooms, had outside toilets. And my mother found out this apartment was empty, and my dad didn't want to move down here because rent up there was $11 a month, and this rent down here was $13 a month. So he didn't want to pay more rent. So one day while he's at work, we moved down here while he's at work. So he comes home at night from work, goes up on the hill, and the house is empty. You know where the hell we was. But later on, in very few minutes, he found out we lived down here. So he was mad at my mother for 2 or 3 days or a week or so, but he got over that because eventually we liked living down here. It was a lot better. Had a bathroom and everything. And used to be a creek run down there all the time from the mine pumps run at night. Don't do that, you get my side. Stay in front of me. There used to be a creek run down here all the time when the pumps from the mines would come on. It'd be just like a river down through. Everybody used to throw the garbage in the creek and wash it all the way down the river. Now on down here is behind our house is a church. Come on down. Keep down here now. I went to church there all the time, Sunday school. Here was the company store. I used to work in here. Now you're getting too close to me. I don't want you filming me up close. Then we had a schoolhouse, an 8-room schoolhouse. It's torn down now behind the church. And I used to be the janitor of that school. I was the janitor of that school. I ran 2 paper routes. I cut people's grass. I washed their car. I made more money than the coal miners did around here. Now this field right here, years ago, this was before we moved here. They didn't play ball at that time. Years ago, all these coal mines used to have their own ball teams. I mean, they were real organized. They had uniforms and, what are you doing that for?
I'm trying to get out of the sun.
Oh, you're getting beside of me.
Sorry.
Anyway, they used to have some real good ball games here. Back in the early 30s, my dad used to bring us to the games. And we used to park the car up along, there used to be a fence over there. We used to park up there and watch the ball games. Every coal camp had their own team, and they were some really good ball players in those days. But I don't think none of them, well, a couple of them made the big leagues. A couple of names I can't even forget, but a couple of guys did get those big leagues. And, well, this used to be a really nice ballpark for baseball. This thing was all level in here, Alan. They had a backstop there, and they had loudspeakers. And when they had a game, there was hundreds of people here. And used to have wooden fences all the way across here, all the way around this ballpark. And it was real level, and you could park cars all along the outside of the fence to see the games. And they had some really good ball games here. And, but they stopped those games at about the time the war started. Those games stopped because everybody went to the war and they just stopped playing ball and they just never did play no more. Then all this grew up and it got unlevel. And the schoolhouse sit right there. There was 8 rooms in the schoolhouse. And I took care of all the rooms. I was a janitor. Cleaned all the windows, cleaned the furnace, swept every evening, emptied the garbage. Did all that every day for $33 a month. Every month I got paid, I got a $20 bill, $10 bill, $2 bill, $1 bill. Brand new money. It was payday. That was great. In the meantime, I sold papers. And something else I did here. I read the meters here for several years. I used to go to all these houses and read the meters for the electric company. I think it was 151 houses. And I did that every month for, well, I forget how long now. And here's a church where my brother, Art and Ann, got married here. And my sister, Laurel and Levy, got married here.